Hello. Hey, merriment makers. Welcome. Welcome back to Merriment Mondays Live, where we talk about joy and breaking free from expectations that weigh us down. Hello. Hello. So today I want to talk about something that I feel like most of us have felt at some point, the fact that we feel like we are behind. And I also have a free PDF and a free pep talk for you today. And if you're in the Positive Pulse, it'll be easy for you to download those things, but I will also give you the links and in the description. We are live here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Say hello from wherever you are. And okay, so talking about feeling like we're behind. So maybe you thought you would have your career figured out by now. Maybe you thought you'd be married or have kids or own a house or just feel like you were more of a functioning adult. And maybe that's because you looked at other people's lives on social media, or you're looking at other people in your friend group, or people in your family that are older than you or that are there now. And you're just like, why are they doing other things? They're doing stuff that I'm not doing. They're doing stuff that I feel like I'm supposed to do. And I am just feeling like I'm always trying to catch up. But what if the pressure of catching up is actually just made up? What if it's not real? What if it's actually just a construct that's made to propagate fear and keep us in line? So today we're going to break down why this feeling exists, where it comes from, and why you might actually be exactly where you're supposed to be. And we're going to talk about a part of ourselves that's rarely mentioned, which is the adaptive child. Okay, so let's start with something simple. Michael's like, I have felt like this my whole life. Yeah, you probably have. And you know what else I'm gonna say is that if you feel like this, it might actually be it might be an inclination that you are someone who's ahead of your time, or that the world just isn't made for you. The same way that like I say that having a neurodivergence is like being left-handed in a world that only really makes right-handed scissors. That's what like a disability is, you know? So I think that being innovative, being creative, being artistic, being strange, eccentric, all of these things is just another way to kind of feel like we are not on this traditional path. Okay. So let's start with something simple. What's something that you think you're supposed to have had figured out by now that you don't? And it's fine that you don't, maybe. So something that I thought that I was definitely supposed to do by now, like I gave up a long time ago trying to appease other people that I was supposed to have kids, right? Like I I knew a pretty early on that that was not something that I wanted to do and that maybe I shouldn't do for additional reasons. But something that's come up in the past couple years that I still thought that I should do, that I hadn't really examined whether or not I wanted it, was to own a house. That's just something you should do. Is it? So, I mean, what if I want to rent a home for the rest of my life? There are advantages to doing either. There's a trade-off with literally anything that you do in the entire world. If you have children, you get to experience a kind of love that, from what I'm told, is completely different to anything else you will ever experience. And there, I mean, the level of advantages to having a child is outweighed, right? But you also, if you don't have a child, have extraordinary freedoms that you wouldn't if you didn't have a child, or if you did have a child. The same thing is true with owning a home, right? You have to pay for everything. Otherwise, my landlord has to pay for things when they break. That also means I have to deal with a landlord. Everything in life is a trade-off. We don't even have to think about it in terms of advantages and disadvantages. It's more about just the trade-off that you're willing to make. But think about things that you thought you were supposed to have figured out by now, things that you maybe feel shame or pressure to do. And feel free to share them in the chat. It could be anything like budgeting, making perfect meals, feeling confident in social situations, parallel parking, I don't know, anything at all. And as we share these things, whether you're here live watching the replay on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, I want to like hold some compassion for ourselves. And a lot of these expectations really come from templates that we were handed when we were young. And remember that sometimes these things really don't mean anything. And sometimes they were things that worked for people in the past. They were a part of that time frame. And now they don't have a place or it just doesn't work for you. But there's no reason that you need to go through an entire life doing something that you think you're supposed to do. Kids is an amazing example. Can you imagine if I had had a child just because I thought I was supposed to? That is a horrible reason to have a child. It's a horrible setup for a relationship. It's a horrible situation for that child and for me. I'm essentially ruining two people's lives in that scenario. Now, that's an extreme circumstance potentially, right? Out of all the kinds of ways that I can give you an example, but it's there as a point because even if you're not necessarily ruining another person's life in the process, Giuseppe is going crazy. What are you chasing, buddy? You will ruin yours, or at least a large chapter of it, because you are choosing to do something that is not for you. It's not your decision. You're deciding to have a kid or buy a house or do something because your mom said that you're supposed to by now and she texts you a lot, or everybody else in your friend group is doing it. That is stupid. It's stupid. I'm going to tell you right now, it's dumb. It is a stupid reason to do anything just because other people are doing it. Just because it doesn't matter. That being said, that doesn't mean that we don't feel pressured by it. So my part of my job in this world is to let you know that that pressure exists. You're weird, you're different, and the pressure. Allow yourself to expand beyond that. Allow yourself to move past it. Allow yourself to be like, you know what? I understand that you think that I'm supposed to do this. I get that that makes sense for you. And you're probably not going to like what I do. That makes sense too. I am allowed to make different choices. And my life doesn't need to make sense to you. The whole thing, the entire thing. Every time I go to see my parents, my dad, neither of my parents really understand who I am or what I do, but my dad tries. My mom just doesn't even have no idea, right? But that's everyone, right? There's going to be so many people that don't get who you are. They don't understand. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't fully enjoy exactly what you want to do or not do something because you don't want to. Okay, so the pressure didn't come out of nowhere. Society loves timelines, even when they're arbitrary. So somewhere along the way, we were handed this checklist for adulthood to graduate by 18, to choose a career by 22, to get married by 30, to own a house, to start a family, and have it all together by who knows when, right? And I just like, who made these rules? The literal board game of life? And why are we still not checking in with them, not checking in with ourselves, and not following them? And here is something that we don't always think about. All of education, and I mean that broadly, from school to cultural conditioning, is really about handing down narratives, templates, blueprints that are meant to help us adapt to the world and survive in society. And yes, some of those templates can be very helpful when you're growing up because we know nothing. We have to learn. And they give you something to try on so that it can be helpful to make it through the day and to start understanding how the world works. You need to get dressed. Here's a shirt and pants. Here's a dress. Like this is how you get dressed, right? But does that mean that you have to wear the shirt and the pants for the rest of your life? That exact same one, that exact same setup? No, you can wear anything you want. You can wear a netted shirt. You can wear a paper bag. You can wear a toga. It literally doesn't matter. But as you move through the world, at the beginning, when you're learning as a sponge, you are given these narratives, these structures, these templates as a way to help you adapt and survive. But what isn't universally taught to us is that once you've tried out what you have been handed, what you have been taught, it is your job, your responsibility to question it, to pause and question it, and to ask yourself, is this still true for me? Is this something that I'm enjoying? Does this even feel right in the decade that I'm living in? Do I actually want this? Or am I just used to it? Am I just comfortable with it? Hello, saying hi. It's a little wave button. Very cute. And feel free to chat. Okay. So the things that you have inherited might have worked for someone else, for a version of you in the past. And it's okay if things worked and you've outgrown them too. But even, no matter for whatever reason that they're not working for you now, and just let it go. Just let it go. Like they don't define your worth or how you are ahead or behind in life. I only got married because it's what you do, and it only lasted a few years. Exactly. The amount of things that we do that are giant life decisions, because it's like, well, I mean, we've been together for this long. I guess we have to get engaged. I guess we have to get married. I guess we have to do it at a church. I guess, because you're supposed to. So stupid. It's so dumb. And when you look back and you're unhappy, you're like, what was I doing? That's so stupid. But you can change the way that you move forward with these things. You can make decisions for the rest of your life and scan them through a like a feeder, a sifter, and say, like, am I still doing this as a result of the process that other people are telling me what I'm supposed to do? Now, one trap I want to caution you against here is rejection through rebellion. So sometimes when we realize that, like, a person hurt us, liked this thing, we swing to the opposite extreme and say, well, I can't ever like that thing. I have to like the opposite thing instead, in fact, just to prove that I'm not like them. And I have done this so many times. This is a way of this happens sometimes with overcorrecting boundaries, like when you have never had any sort of way, like if you've been a people pleaser your whole life and then you finally learn, like, oh, I don't have to say yes to everything, and then you kind of become a dick and you start saying no to everyone in a really mean way. That's an example of overcorrecting boundaries. But it also means that just be like, you might be naturally interested in something. So like I was really interested in magic and crystals and all these things, but my mom, who I disliked, was also interested in them. And I thought that if I continued to stay interested in those things, that I would be like her or just have something in common with her. And I didn't want that. So I rejected something that I was naturally interested in. And that doesn't make sense either. Neither of those ways are being true to yourself. Doing something out of spite or is not real. It's still a reaction to something. Things need to come from inside of you. You're still being ruled by someone else's narrative, someone else's story, and you can end up liking the same things or not liking the same things, but you need to arrive at that truth yourself. So when you do the work to check in with yourself and decide what is true for you now on your own terms, that's when you start to feel more confident and grounded in your life. So a lot of people assume that comparison is this new thing because of social media. We're always comparing ourselves now. It's a huge problem. And like it's a modern culture thing. But comparison is a deeply ingrained part of human nature psychologically. Like, so there's a social comparison theory from 1954, okay? And it explains that humans naturally evaluate themselves in relationship to others. It's how we determine our social standing, how we learn from peers, and how we set goals. Status is an extremely important motivator for so many things that we do. And that doesn't mean necessarily like I need to be the president of something, I need to have $1 million. It can be so simple. One of the best examples that I've been given was in this book that I can't remember who it was. It might have been Mark Manson, maybe not. But the example was that sometimes in a social circle, the status is simply just having the same thing. So in a group of moms, if all of you have a minivan, but one of you has a sports car, the status shifts. So you might actually be more accepted by having the minivan in that group than by having the sports car because maybe it's like you don't the connection through the status symbol is that you don't value being a mom because you're not having enough room for your kids in the back seat, right? So it's like in my circle, people like us do things like this. But outside of that, I don't really care. You really only care about the things that you care about, right? So your status is a reflection of that and your values within the circle of that. So the social comparison theory from Festinger in 1954 is extremely relevant to our understanding that comparison is an integral part of our human psychology and society. And even before social media, people compared themselves through class and professions and family expectations. A farmer in the 1600s might have felt like behind if his crops weren't as good as his neighbors, you know? A woman in the 1800s might have been judged if she wasn't marrying on time or had the right fashion. As long as we have options, we're going to compare. But the difference is that today we are exposed to thousands of people's curated highlight reels every single day if we choose to be on social media, which I'm guessing you are because you're seeing me. So that's why it feels maybe different now or worse. So it's just happening at an overwhelming scale. Have you ever looked at someone online who seemed ahead and then you realize later that they were actually struggling? So what I'd like to do now is debunk this myth of catching up. I want you to reframe instead of asking, am I behind? I'd like you to ask, who benefits from believing I'm behind? Think about that. Think about the self-help industry profits when we feel like we need to fix ourselves. The beauty and fashion industry profits when we feel like we need to keep up. Hustle culture thrives when we feel like we're not doing enough. And everything is a trickle down from that. And it's coming from fear. And every time that someone tells you that you should be doing this, it's because they believe in these bigger fears and they want maybe the best for you, but it's because they're scared too. So the more we believe we're behind, the more we'll exhaust ourselves chasing something we never actually needed in the first place. So this is where the adaptive child that I mentioned earlier can come into play. In psychology, the adaptive child is a part of us that developed really early on to survive. And maybe this was when you learned to people please. Maybe this was when you learned how to perform to get approval, or maybe it was to like be a peacekeeper, or how to stay small and shrink into the background, or shut down your needs, or mask your symptoms, because it helped you to stay safe and to be as loved as possible, to feel some sense of worth, and to be as accepted as possible. But as adults, what's happening is that we're still letting ourselves steer the wheel with that adaptive child, especially when it comes to timelines, expectations, and performance. And then it backfires. So awareness is everything. It all starts with awareness. And we get to think the part of ourselves, the adaptive child, for helping us survive. And then we choose something new now that we can understand that we're safe enough to do so. I think I have a problem with hustle culture, and others think that I'm ahead all the time. So most of us will do whatever we can to showcase ourselves in a positive light, which is part of like a branch of hustle culture, right? And even also self-help industry and the beauty and fashion industry filters and dressing up just to get on camera and making sure that what we're posting on social media, for example, is positive and a highlight reel. These are all prongs of these three large things. So, I mean, we want to make it look as if we are extremely productive, extremely successful, extremely beautiful, powerful, self-aware. We want these things to showcase to other people. And it's on some level, it's also a way to signal to others, especially biologically for reproductive purposes, because I mean, you want a mate that is strong, right? You want someone that is going to be able to propagate the species. So it's like if you can do all these things, if you're beautiful, if you are aware of yourself, if you are productive, if you can do all these things, then I mean, you're probably really full of good genes. But if we take all the makeup off and the filters off and we watch your life for real, and it turns out that you're not really doing anything, you just took a couple really good pictures. I mean, it's not that attractive anymore, and it's probably really unlikely that you do have that stuff to give, you know? So there that also can come into the part where we're kind of developing a cognitive dissonance with our own selves, which creates a lot of anxiety, anger, resentment, guilt, and even physical issues with ourselves when we have a feeling of cognitive dissonance between what we're doing and what we feel, what we believe and what we're doing, right? So, like, if you think that you, what's a good example? If you think that you want to stop smoking, but then you keep smoking, you say like, I'm not a smoker, but then you keep smoking. It's like, okay, well, you're lying to yourself, essentially. At the end of the day, that's what it is. A disalignment with values is a lie to yourself. So if you continue to showcase yourself in a light that is not true, you're a liar. And that is what creates cognitive dissonance. That's really what it is. Um, so we want to be able to be a little braver, a little more vulnerable, a little more courageous with reality, with approaching our own reality, with what is it that our lives are? Why are we so afraid of the freckles and the blemishes and the messy middles? Why is it that we are unwilling to announce our own weirdness? Why is it that we are not okay with incompletes and the parts of ourselves that don't align with these status symbols and the timelines that were created for us out of complete ambivalence? Why do we struggle so much to find worth outside of these timelines and ambiguous ideas created for us by people that we have never met, who probably did it to make money or weren't even thinking about how it would affect people in the long run? So we have to find our worth intrinsically. We have to be able to be okay with how we look in the mirror and to be able to make eye contact with ourselves and follow up on our decisions and our behavior. So I think a lot of the time when we are worried about where we're supposed to be, it's, I mean, sometimes it might just be that we're not doing what we think that we're supposed to be doing for ourselves. Maybe it's a misalignment of our own values. Maybe it's like, maybe I'm not the person that I say that I am. Maybe I am hiding. Maybe I am lying. There's that really poignant moment in Galaxy Quest, the movie, where the aliens don't really understand lying and they're trying to explain what acting is. And then he finally has to say, it's a lie. And I think that sometimes we need to have the bullshit called on us and be like, okay, well, you know what? All of this is it's not real. Are you will like fashion is a really good example, right? Like I love dressing up, I love putting on makeup, I play with filters. I think that's great, but if I meet you in person, I am not afraid to wear pajamas and no makeup. I don't care. I we have to be as comfortable with ourselves naked as we are embellished and know that neither part is a lie. So, what if you are exactly where you're supposed to be? Late bloomers, if we want to talk about success in more modern terms, are much more common than you might think. Vera Wang created her first dress at 40. Stan Lee created Spider-Man at 39. Julia Child learned to cook in her late 30s. Oprah was fired at 23 and was told she wasn't even fit for TV. You know, but I do want to add that you don't need to be famous for your life to matter, and success does not need to include visibility. It doesn't have to include a big moment either. A fulfilling life isn't about when you achieve something grand. It's about how you live the life that you're in right now. Because I am also here, part of my mission in life that I understand is to remind you that you are temporary. And this existence, as you understand it, is temporary. And every moment is a gift because you could die tomorrow from a reason that you don't understand. And that's not meant to create fear, it's meant to create a fire under your ass. So, do you want to go out making decisions for other people, being a servant to hustle culture and needing to fix yourself constantly, not being able to leave the house unless you have the perfect winged eyeliner? That seems like such a waste of life and your potential. If you weren't worried about being behind, what would you do? What would you enjoy about where you are right now? What's beautiful about where you are right now? What's super wonderful? Janice said capitalism needs that level of self-scrutiny and compassion and comparison to thrive. Capitalism needs that level of self-scrutiny and comparison to thrive. Can you say that another way? I'm not sure when you wrote that and what I'm responding to. Um, okay. So, yeah, I want you guys to think about what if you are exactly as you're supposed to be? What if there's nothing wrong with what you've chosen? What if the only thing that you need is to listen to what you want? And if you have no idea what you want, start with what feels good about what I said at the beginning. At the very beginning, oh boy, I have no idea. But the thing is, too, that, I mean, as much as we shit on capitalism as a culture today, I, I, I'm here to be the devil's advocate also and find the good in everything. If without capitalism, I wouldn't have avocados for breakfast. So we can turn anything into an extreme and turn it into potential evil, but maybe there is also no good or bad in anything. Maybe some things simply are. And it's also possible that, you know, the origin and the intention of capitalism is to create the possibility for us to experience multiple things and other cultures for a significant decrease in price. To have orange juice at your table from Florida and bananas from the tropics. Like I enjoy that aspect of capitalism and wouldn't change that. You know, there's just other parts of it that we don't like, but to throw the baby out with the bathwater is never a good thing, in my opinion. But yes, in terms of, the fear that we're propagating as the profiting on needing to fix ourselves and keep up that part is not something that we should take as written in stone. It's not something that's objectively true. It's something that is being fed to us. So if you are allowed to participate in anything that you want. I love self-help. I love personal development. I love beauty. I love fashion, and I love productivity. But I am participating in them when I am at my best on my terms. And that is the difference. How can you do it from yourself? Being okay with the naked and made up self, preach on the shadow self. Yeah. So I want you to that ask yourself again, who benefits from me believing I'm behind? And not even just these larger systems and structures, but in general, like, isn't this silly? Isn't this silly to believe that I'm behind? Who is this helping? Is this even helping me to believe that I'm behind? Isn't this at the core a limiting belief? For me to believe that I'm behind isn't helping me. If you want to change, if you want to get ahead, if you'd like to do something different, the belief that you are behind is no longer helpful. What if you started believing that everything that you've done up until this point has been your best, or it is what it is, and now the only thing that you can do is run your decisions through a sifter to decide if you are making the decisions for you or someone else? And how can you become more comfortable with who you are when you are raw, naked, and vulnerable? And to adorn yourself, whether it is with makeup or fashion or showcasing your accomplishments, and doing that from a place of love, not shame, not hiding. Do I have a mantra that helps with this? I just tell myself that it's wonderful to be weird. I just continue to tell myself that I love being strange. I I get off on being weird. I get off on being strange. I I I, I love that, like, the 60s and the 70s were objectively more colorful eras, right? Um but something that I think that you know, we forget now is how easy it is to stand out. So now I I love wearing color. Obviously, look at the background. Everything in my life is like this. And I as much as I wish sometimes that everything was colorful, I also love that I stand out in any crowd almost, because everyone else has chosen to not consider their clothing, right? And by doing so, I'm brightening up people's days. And there's a little bit of that's not a little bit, there's definite selfishness in that. But in order for there to be light, there needs to be dark, right? So if everything was colorful, it would have no meaning, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if you can understand that at the end of the day, what makes you powerful is your superpower. Like, sorry, what makes you powerful is your weirdness. What makes you powerful is your, like, the thing that people have told has in the past, whenever people have told you, well, that's weird, that's a lot, you're going to need to tone that down. Or can you turn that up a little bit? I can't hear that. Whether you've been told you're too quiet or too loud or too much or not enough of something, and that's probably multiple things, I don't think that you should change it at all. Actually, that's not true. I do think you should change it. I think you should lean in hard. I think you should lean in as far as you can so that you're like standing over it and you can see the cliff and you're about to fall. I want you to take that and amplify it so loud because that thing that people are noticing and calling out that it's different, that is what can make a real difference. What's different about you can make a difference. If we try to hide that part of ourselves, we wither. Our soul declines. If we amplify it, the whole world benefits, or at least the people impacted or exposed to it, rather. Your weirdness is your superpower forever. Don't try to learn a lesson from who you are. Teach people the lesson by being yourself. Lean over your weird cliff. Yeah. Or just think about like, in math when they do like to the 10th power, that. Or like, how could you 10x this? How could you make this, how could you make this the most? What would it look like to make this so much, to make this incredibly too much that no one could stand it? And then who would be attracted to that? Who could be benefit from that? How could you help someone with that? Even if it's one person, not necessarily a population or a community. Because remember that merriment making is feeling good to do good. So once you feel good by considering your weirdness and leaning in, then you help other people by doing good. And sometimes you do good simply by being yourself. When I walk around and people see me as an expressed version of myself, living a considered life, they immediately feel a permission slip to be their fullest version, their potential, their actualized self, their authentic self, their expressed version. And it doesn't need to be a replication of me. In fact, it should not be. It just needs to be that they understand that they can do this at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday for no reason, except that the reason is that you're alive. And then sometimes it's more intentional in the way that you do good, where you think about how can your weirdness affect someone who maybe doesn't understand or is hurting, right? So if you've been feeling like you need to catch up, remember to just ask according to who? And who fucking cares? Really, it's not their life. If it's not a life that you would trade with, why are you taking their advice? Life is not a checklist. There is no race. You are not late to your own life. And if you ever need a reminder that you are not behind, I have a list of late bloomers at uncustomary.org/late bloomers, one word. And it's if you're on YouTube, it should be in the description. And when I post the replay on Instagram, it'll be in the description. And then if you want a short, comforting audio from me, just to know that you're doing fine, it's at uncustomary.org/not dash behind dash pep dash talk. Annoying, I know. But again, it'll be in the description. And if you're in the Positive Pulse, everything's all in one place when I upload the replay. It's all super easy. And if you don't know what the Positive Pulse is, super fun. Tomorrow is the kickoff of our official launch. And we've been doing like a soft launch behind the scenes. And there's already there's like 75 people in there already. It's great. It's on this wonderful app. And there's 80 free resources in there already: video, audio, lessons, resources, worksheets. And it's all integrated. And there's like for this, for example, you could have gotten a little notification that I was going live if you would RSVP to the event. There's connection with other members, so you can match to new people and make new friends based on your location and your interests. And there's like badges and rewards. Like it's a whole thing. I'm obsessed with this platform. I'm gonna move all of my stuff there by the end of this year. And I love it over there. So if you want to make new friends, if you want to go to events, if you don't want to miss anything and you want free stuff, there's really I don't see any downside whatsoever. It's completely free. And the resources are stuff like this, um, mental health, body image, stuff for caregivers and burnout, self-love, happiness habits, creating joy, and spreading joy. And you can also get discounts to my other programs. Just saying. And that's uncustomary.org/positive-pulse. And all month long in April, we're having basically this kickoff celebration. We're doing like constant events and bonuses and stuff. Like it's a lot. So you're gonna want to be in there. Okay, thank you for doing you. You're very welcome. Be you. That's really all I want everybody to be, is to not try to do more. It's like to like pull back all these things that we've taken on that we think that we need to do to be who we already were. So if you want to subscribe for more conversations and lessons and free stuff, go to uncustomary.org or uncustomary.org/positive-pulse, and you'll get a reminder that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're not behind, you're right on time. Like this video, like the chat, like the thing, share the video, subscribe, all that stuff. Hit all the buttons. Hit all the buttons. And you have to feel good to do good. I will see you next time. I love you. We're gonna do a Merriment Mondays every week in April, once a week, not every other week, every week. Bonus time. All right. Thank you for coming, everyone. Signing